Jace Morgan's fingers tightened around the leather pouch of gold as screams pierced the afternoon air. He pushed through the jeering crowd in Silverstone's market square, then froze. 5 women hung upside down from a wooden scaffold, ropes biting into their ankles, hair dragged in the dust, faces purple with pooling blood. The youngest had fainted twice already, her body swaying like a broken doll. $30 for the whole lot. Silas Blackwood grinned from his platform, scar twisting across his cheek. Come on, fellas, damaged goods, but they'll work. The crowd roared with laughter. One woman, pregnant, trembling, begged through cracked lips. Please, my baby. Jace's breath caught. A silver sun-shaped necklace glinted at her throat. Impossible. He'd seen that same necklace 15 years ago, on the Apache woman who'd saved his life. Blackwood raised 3 fingers. Nobody buying. Then we dump him in the river. 1, 2. Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments, along with the city you're watching from. Now, let's continue with the story. 3. Stop! Jace's voice cut through the countdown. He strode forward, dumped his pouch onto Blackwood's table. Gold coins spilled across scarred wood, 15 years of sweat and isolation. $247. Blackwood's yellow teeth flashed. Only buys you 3? Lumberjack, pick your favorites. Jace's jaw clenched. He looked at the pregnant woman, at that impossible necklace. All in. 1 hand of poker, I win. All 5 go free. I lose. He met Blackwood's eyes. You take my shooting hand? The crowd fell silent. Blackwood leaned back, calculating. No, not your hand. Your life goes on the table, or no deal. Done. Wait. An old Apache man pushed through the onlookers' quille. Weathered face mapped with age. He pointed at the necklace. That belonged to Nashota, a healer who saved many lives. His dark eyes fixed on Blackwood. This man honors his debts. Let them go. Blackwood's hand drifted toward his gun, then stopped. Starting a war with the Apache wasn't worth it, but neither was losing profit. Fine. He shuffled the deck with practiced ease. But you got 3 days to bring me $500. Morgan, don't. And I take 'em all back, including your corpse. The cards flew. Jace watched Blackwood's fingers, saw the slight hesitation on the deal. The game was rigged, but Sheriff Dalton, standing guard behind Blackwood, made challenging it suicide. Jace turned over his cards. Full house. Blackwood smiled and revealed a straight flush. Before Blackwood could speak, Kayleigh's voice rang out. The white law may be crooked, but Apache memory is long. We will remember this day. He locked eyes with the sheriff. Dalton shifted uncomfortably. Blackwood cursed under his breath, but waved his hand. Cut him down. 3 days. Morgan. Then I'm collecting at the boarding house. Jace laid the 5 women on cots while the town doctor checked them over. When he finally left, Sarah, the pregnant one, sat up slowly, still clutching that necklace. You're wondering about this. Her voice was hoarse from hanging upside down. It was my mother's, Nashota. Jace's throat tightened. She saved my life once. I know. Sarah's eyes glistened. She told me before she died. One day, a broken man will come. He'll need saving as much as he'll need to save others. Mary Elizabeth, a thin woman with intelligent eyes, touched Sarah's shoulder. Tell him the rest. Sarah's composure crumbled. They didn't just take us. 2 weeks ago, Blackwood's men took our children, 8 of them. Her voice broke. They used the children as bait. We came to rescue them and got captured too. Jace felt ice spread through his chest. Where are the kids now? Blackwood's fortress, old Fort Defiance, 40 miles south. Rebecca Harris, the youngest-looking woman, spoke up. Her hands trembled. Tomorrow morning at dawn, a wagon comes from Mexico. They're taking the children across the border to sell them. After that, she couldn't finish. Jace did the math. Dawn was 20 hours away, 40 miles on horseback, 6 hours if they pushed hard. But they had no horses, no weapons, and 5 women who could barely stand, and hanging over it all 3 days to find $500 they didn't have. Catherine Webb, older and steady-eyed, leaned forward. There's something else you should know. 4 pairs of eyes turned to Rebecca. Rebecca's face went white. I'm sorry. I should have told you from the start. Tears spilled down her cheeks. My real name is Rebecca Blackwood. Silas is my ex-husband. He's doing this because of me. The silence in the room was suffocating. Margaret Maggie O'Brien was the first to speak, her Irish lilt sharp with accusation. You married that monster. I didn't know what he was. Rebecca's voice cracked. 5 years ago, he seemed charming, successful. By the time I learned about the trafficking, the murders, I ran, changed my name. Thought I'd gotten away. Sarah shifted on her cot, hand protective over her belly. How did he find you? A month ago. But he didn't just take me. Rebecca's tears fell freely now. He wanted me to watch everyone I cared about suffer. That's why he took all of you. All your children. He's punishing me by destroying you. Mary stood abruptly. Then we give you to him. Trade you for the children. No. Sarah grabbed Mary's wrist. He'll kill her and keep the children anyway. You know he will. Jace had been silent, thinking. We need weapons, horses, supplies. He looked at each woman. And we have 19 hours? How? Catherine asked. We have nothing. The sheriff's in Blackwood's pocket, and every merchant in town saw what happened today. Nobody will help us. A knock at the door froze them all. Ooh. Marshal's office. Open up. Through the window, Jace spotted Sheriff Dalton with 3 deputies, hands on their gun belts. His mind raced. This wasn't a social call. Back door, he whispered. The stable. Now. They moved quietly, 5 women still weak from their ordeal. 1 man with nothing but a Colt in desperation. Jace eased the back door open, checked the alley. Empty. Go. Stay low. They slipped into the darkness, moving toward the stable 50 yards away. Almost there. Almost 6 men stepped from the shadows, guns drawn. Going somewhere. Ladies. It was a setup. Dalton had herded them exactly where Blackwood's men were waiting. Jace drew his Colt, but one of the thugs already had a knife to Maggie's throat. Drop it, hero, or the Irish girl gets a second smile. The gun hit the dirt. Smart. The lead thug, a scarred man missing 2 fingers, grinned at Rebecca. Boss said you'd run. Said you loved your little friends more than your own skin. Guess he was right. Rebecca stepped forward, hands raised. Let them go. I'll come willingly. That's what Silas wants, isn't it me? Oh, he wants you, sweetheart, but he never said nothing about letting them go. Jace tensed, calculating odds he didn't like. 6 armed men, 5 exhausted women, 1 gun in the dirt. A low whistle cut through the night. 4 shadows materialized from the darkness, Apache warriors, moving with deadly silence. The fight was brief and brutal. Blackwood's men never stood a chance. When it ended, one thug had escaped into the night, blood trailing behind him. Kale emerged from the shadows, wiping his knife. Nashota was my daughter. Sarah is my granddaughter. He handed Jace a folded paper. I cannot fight your war. My people have bled enough for white men's conflicts. But I can give you this. Jace unfolded it. A hand-drawn map of Fort Defiance, detailed and precise. 40 miles south. The children are in the lower chambers. Kaylee's eyes were sad. You have until dawn. After that, the Mexican traders will take them where you'll never find them. We need horses, Jace said. Weapons. The sheriff has both in his stable. You'll have to take them. Sarah tried to stand. Swayed. We'll never make it in time. We're too weak, and he'll be expecting us now. She gestured to the blood trail. That man will warn them. Jace's jaw set. Then we steal what we need and ride hard. From the sheriff. Mary's eyes widened. That's suicide. It's the only way. Jace looked at each of them. I'm going. The rest of you, we're going. Rebecca's voice was steel. Our children are in that hell because of me. I won't abandon them. We go together. Catherine agreed. Or not at all. Maggie had been quiet, rubbing her throat where the knife had pressed. Now she spoke, voice trembling. Jace, there's something you should know about Fort Defiance. Everyone turned to her. I lived there 2 years ago. She struggled with the words. I was Blackwood's property. Before I escaped. She slowly unbuttoned the top of her dress, turned around. Her back was a road map of scars, whip marks, burn patterns, things worse than Jace could name. I know the layout. I know how to get in. Maggie's voice hardened. But if he sees my face, he'll recognize me instantly. And what he'll do. She didn't finish. The weight of it settled over them. They had a map, a plan, in less than 18 hours. But the man they were about to face knew at least 2 of them intimately. Had already outsmarted them once tonight, and now had advance warning they were coming. Outside, in the distance, a horse galloped toward the southern road, toward Fort Defiance, toward Blackwood. Midnight found them outside Sheriff Dalton's stable, pressed against weathered wood. Jace had scouted the layout 2 guards, both drowsy from whiskey, sloppy, arrogant, good. He signaled Sarah. She moved like her mother must have, silent, precise. A shadow among shadows. Within minutes, both guards were unconscious, bound and gagged in the hay. Rebecca and Catherine worked the horses' 6 strong mounts, already saddled. Mary and Maggie broke into the weapons cache with a crowbar, stifling victorious gasps when they found the arsenal. 3 Winchester rifles, 4 Colt revolvers, ammunition boxes, knives. And Jace's pulse quickened, 2 sticks of dynamite wrapped in oilcloth. Jackpot, Maggie whispered. A floorboard creaked above them. Lamplight spilled down the stable stairs. Sheriff Dalton stood there in his nightshirt, gun in hand, eyes widening at the scene below. Jace moved before thought. 3 strides. Then his arm locked around Dalton's throat from behind. The sheriff struggled, clawing, but Jace held firm until the man went limp. Sarah appeared at his elbow, knife drawn. Kill him. He deserves it for what he's done. For a heartbeat, Jace considered it. How many children had Dalton helped Blackwood steal? How many women? No. He lowered the unconscious sheriff to the floor. We're not murderers, not yet. They bound Dalton thoroughly, gagged him, locked him in his own cell downstairs. By the time anyone found him, they'd be long gone. The 6 of them rode hard into the desert night, hoofbeats drumming against packed earth. The moon hung full and bright, a blessing and a curse. Good for navigation, bad for concealment. But as miles fell away behind them, something shifted in the group. Maggie laughed, actually laughed, as her horse jumped a dry creek bed. We did it. We actually robbed the damn sheriff. Catherine grinned, checking her rifle. My late husband always said I'd make a terrible outlaw. Wish he could see me now. Even Rebecca seemed lighter, the crushing weight of guilt temporarily lifted by action. They stopped at 3 in the morning to rest the horses. Jace spread Kayleigh's map on a flat rock, studying it by moonlight. Fort Defiance has one main gate here. He pointed. 12 to 15 guards. Kayla estimated. The children are held in underground chambers here and here. Maggie leaned closer, her scarred back hidden beneath a borrowed coat. There's an old service tunnel. Western wall. Blackwood used it to bring in merchandise without witnesses. Her voice steadied. I can guide us through it. The plan took shape. Rebecca and Maggie would create a diversion at the eastern approach. Jace and Sarah would infiltrate through the western tunnel. Mary and Catherine would hold the horses at the northern exit route, ready for a fast escape. If we move fast and smart, Jace said, we can have the children out before Blackwood knows what's happening. Around a small fire, they shared what little food they had. The conversation turned personal, each woman speaking of her child with such love, it made Jace's chest ache. Sarah. Dakota's 8 now. Never met a stranger. He'd befriend a rattlesnake if I let him. Mary, Kaya wants to be a teacher, like me. She's already teaching the younger ones their letters. Rebecca. Emma draws pictures. Every morning, she'd draw me something new. Flowers, mostly. Sometimes horses. Maggie. Thomas is tough, stubborn as his father was. He'll keep the others brave. I know he will. Catherine. Lucy's only 4. Still sucks her thumb when she's scared. God, she must be terrified. Jace found himself speaking without planning to. I never had children. Never thought I deserved a family after. He stopped. But tonight, I'd die for yours. Sarah removed the silver necklace and pressed it into his palm. My mother wanted you to have this. She knew you'd come. As dawn broke pink and gold across the desert, Fort Defiance appeared on the horizon, a dark tooth of stone against the lightening sky. 2 miles away, they had the weapons, the plan. Just enough time before the Mexican wagon arrived. Maggie whispered, "We're going to make it." Then a gunshot cracked across the morning air. A small figure burst from the fort's gate, running, stumbling. Dark stains spread across a child's shirt. The figure collapsed 50 yards out. Sarah screamed, "Dakota!" But as they spurred their horses closer, Jace's stomach dropped. Wrong height, wrong build, not Dakota. On the fort's wall, Silas Blackwood stood with a megaphone. his voice carrying across the desert. "Rebecca, I know you're out there. Every hour you don't surrender. I shoot another one. The clock's ticking. Wife." The child's body lay motionless in the desert sand. Jace dismounted, approaching carefully, every instinct screaming trap. Behind him, Sarah choked on sobs, held back by Mary's firm grip. "Don't," Mary hissed. "It's what he wants." The boy was maybe 9 years old. Not Dakota, not any of theirs, but someone's son. The bullet had caught him in the shoulder, still breathing, but fading fast. Catherine rushed forward with her medical supplies, but Jace caught her arm. "Look, 200 yards away." Blackwood stood atop the fort wall, holding two small figures, Thomas and Lucy Maggie's and Catherine's children, guns pressed to their heads. "1 hour." "Rebecca." Blackwood's voice echoed. "Or they're next." They retreated behind a rock formation, the wounded boy now in Catherine's care. Dawn was breaking. The Mexican wagon would arrive within the hour. Everything was collapsing. Rebecca stood abruptly. "I'm going in. I'll trade myself for time." "It's suicide," Jace said flatly. "He'll take you and kill the children anyway. You don't know that." "Yes, I do. Men like Blackwood don't honor deals." Sarah gripped Rebecca's shoulders. "We have a plan. The tunnel. The diversion. The plan's dead." Rebecca's voice cracked. "He knows we're here. He's ready. And children are dying." She pulled free. "I won't let anyone else bleed for my mistakes." Before anyone could stop her, Rebecca walked into the open, hands raised high. "Silas, it's me. I'm coming in." On the wall, Blackwood's grin was visible even at this distance. "Now that's my good little wife. Come on home." 4 men emerged from the gate, seized Rebecca, and dragged her inside. Blackwood didn't release Thomas and Lucy. Of course he didn't. Instead, his voice boomed again. "The rest of you have 30 minutes to ride away. If you're still here, I start executing children, 1 every 5 minutes." Maggie stared at the fort, her scarred back rigid with tension. "We need someone inside. Now." Catherine looked at her. "How?" "The poison plan." Maggie turned to Catherine. "You said you could make me appear dead with belladonna. Low dose, slow heart rate. That was before we lost the element of surprise." Jace said, "He's not going to let anyone in now. He will if you beg." Maggie's eyes were fierce. "Carry my corpse to the gate. Offer to trade it for 1 child. Play the broken man." Catherine shook her head violently. "The dosage is too risky. 15 minutes maximum before brain damage. And if they bury you before you wake, then I die trying." Maggie grabbed Catherine's medicine bag. "Better than watching my son die for certain." The next 10 minutes were agony. Catherine measured drops with shaking hands. Maggie drank. Then within minutes began convulsing. Her skin turned gray-blue. Her breathing stopped or became so shallow, Catherine had to press her ear to Maggie's chest to detect a heartbeat. 14 minutes, Catherine whispered. No more. Jace lifted Maggie's limp body, feeling the terrible lightness of her. He walked to the fort gate, white cloth tied to his rifle barrel. "Blackwood, I want to negotiate." The gates cracked open. Silas Blackwood descended from the wall, flanked by armed men, up close. The scar on his face looked like a canyon. His eyes were dead, shark-like. "The Irish whore's finally dead." "Huh." He nudged Maggie's body with his boot. "Good. She had it coming. Stole from me 2 years back. I want to trade her body for one child, Jace said, voice carefully broken. Then I'll leave. You'll never see me again. Blackwood studied him. You got balls. I'll give you that. Fine. But you don't get a kid. You get Rebecca back. Take the treacherous bitch and go. Jace's mind raced. This wasn't the plan. But Rebecca emerged from the fort. Shoved forward by guards, her face was bruised, one eye swelling shut. She looked at Jace, looked at Maggie's corpse. Then she stopped walking. I'm sorry, Rebecca whispered. Jace's blood went cold. Rebecca turned to Blackwood. You were right. Someone here is lying. She pointed directly at Jace. This man isn't just a lumberjack. His name is Jace Morgan, wanted for bank robbery 15 years ago. First National Bank of Denver, 1863. $15,000 stolen. $5,000 bounty on his head, dead or alive. The world tilted. Sarah gasped behind the rocks. Blackwood's eyes lit up with predatory glee. Well. Blackwood circled Jace slowly. A genuine outlaw. And here you were, playing hero. Jace's voice was hollow. Rebecca? Why? Rebecca's face crumpled, tears streaming. He promised. If I gave you to him, he'd let the children go. All of them. I didn't have a choice. You always have a choice, Sarah's scream carried from the rocks. Blackwood laughed. A sound like breaking glass. Did you really think I'd honor a deal with a whore, tie him up? Throw them both in the dungeon. The Morgan bounty alone makes this whole operation worthwhile. Jace fought, but 6 men overwhelmed him. Ropes bit into his wrists. They dragged him and Maggie's corpse through the gate. Rebecca followed, weeping. The fort's interior was worse than Jace imagined, a maze of stone corridors leading down into darkness. They threw him into an underground cell, dank and reeking, tossed Maggie's body in the corner like refuse. Rebecca was chained to the opposite wall, close enough to see, too far to reach. Then Jace saw them. 8 children huddled in the shadows, filthy, terrified, but alive. Emma, Thomas, Lucy, Kaya, all of them. And in the front, a boy with Sarah's eyes. Uncle Jace. Dakota's voice was small, confused. Did they catch you too? Jace wanted to say something reassuring, something brave, but the words stuck in his throat. He'd failed, completely. The women who trusted him were outside, surrounded. The children he'd promised to save were still captive. Rebecca had betrayed them, and Maggie God. Maggie only had minutes left before the poison killed her for real. In the corner, Maggie's chest barely moved. 12 minutes had passed. 3 minutes remained. Above them, Blackwood's voice filtered down through stone. Load the children. The Mexican wagon just arrived. We're moving them now? The dungeon was a tomb for the living. Water dripped somewhere in the darkness, each drop marking seconds Maggie didn't have. Jace yanked against the iron shackles binding his wrists to the stone wall. The metal bit deeper, drawing blood. Useless. The 8 children pressed together in the corner, a single mass of terror and tears. Dakota clung to Jace despite the chains, small arms wrapped around the man's waist. I knew you'd come, the boy whispered. I told the others. I said Uncle Jace would save us. The words were knives. Across the cell, Rebecca sobbed against her own chains. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. He promised me, he swore if I gave you up, he'd only kill you and let the children go. I thought I could save them by sacrificing one person instead of all of us. You thought wrong. Jace's voice was dead. Men like Blackwood don't keep promises. I know that now. Rebecca's face twisted with anguish. I wanted so badly to believe he had some shred of humanity left. The man I married before I knew what he wasn't always this monster. I thought maybe. There is no maybe with men like him, only what they take. Kaya, Mary's 6-year-old daughter, whimpered in the darkness. I want my mama. Emma, Rebecca's 5-year-old, hiccuped through tears. Are we going to die here? No. Jace lied. No, you're not. The cell door slammed open. Torchlight flooded in, blinding after the dark. Blackwood entered with 2 of his men, his shark eyes scanning the children like livestock. He grabbed Dakota by the collar, ripping the boy from Jace's arms. This one first. Blackwood dragged Dakota toward the door. Mexican brothels pay premium for pretty boys his age. Dakota screamed, kicking, reaching desperately for Jace. Uncle Jace, help me, please. Jace threw himself forward with such force the chains nearly pulled from the wall. Don't touch him, take me instead. Kill me now, but leave the boy. Blackwood paused, smiled. Oh, I'm not killing you. Morgan, I'm handing you over to the sheriff for that bounty. But first, you get to watch these children disappear one by one, starting with Sarah's precious son. He punched Jace in the gut once, twice. Jace doubled over, gasping. You don't get to play hero, Blackwood hissed. You're a thief who's been hiding in the woods for 15 years. You don't save people. You're just a coward who finally ran out of places to hide. Dakota's screams echoed down the corridor as they dragged him away. The remaining 7 children clung to each other, crying. Lucy, only 4 years old, kept calling for her mother. Thomas, Maggie's 7-year-old son, tried to be brave, but his chin trembled. Rebecca pulled against her chains until her wrists bled. This is my fault, all of it. If I'd never married him, if I'd been stronger, if I'd... Stop. Jace's head hung low. We all made choices. I had 15 years to turn myself in, to face what I'd done. Instead, I hid like a coward. He looked at the children. I promised your mothers I'd bring you home, and I failed. In the corner, Maggie hadn't moved, hadn't breathed visibly. 15 minutes had passed. She was gone. Rebecca's sobs filled the silence. I killed her too. I killed all of us. Then impossibly, Maggie's finger twitched. Jace's head snapped up. Maggie. Her eyes cracked open, unfocused and glassy. Her mouth worked soundlessly. She tried to move, but her muscles refused, still locked in the poison's grip. She's alive. Jace breathed. Rebecca. She's alive. Maggie's hand slid slowly toward something glinting in the straw, a knife, dropped by one of the guards. Her fingers were sluggish, uncoordinated. But inch by agonizing inch, she closed the distance. 5 minutes of crawling. The children watched in frozen silence. Finally, Maggie's hand closed around the hilt. She dragged herself toward Rebecca's chains, moving like a woman underwater. When she reached them, she could barely grip the knife. But she pressed the blade against the lock and began sawing. The lock gave. Rebecca was free. Rebecca immediately grabbed the knife, cut Jace's chains. His wrists were raw and bleeding. But he was loose. Together they worked on the children's lighter bonds ropes, not iron. Can you walk? Jace asked Maggie. She managed to stand, leaning heavily on the wall. Barely. Go. I'll follow. They crept toward the stairway leading up from the dungeon. Jace went first, unarmed, knowing every step could be his last. 2 guards stood at the top. They never saw Jace coming. He took the first one down silently, snapping his neck before the man could shout. The second turned. Drawing his gun, Rebecca shot forward, driving the stolen knife into his throat. She stared at her hands, now covered in blood. I killed him. You saved us. Jace took the dead guard's revolver. 6 bullets. Come on. They emerged into the fort's courtyard, and hell opened up. The Mexican wagon sat in the center, already loaded with supplies. 4 traders stood beside it, negotiating with Blackwood's 8 remaining guards. And there, thrown across a horse-like cargo Dakota, bound and gagged, eyes wide with terror. Jace had 1 gun, 12 enemies, 8 children to protect, 3 women, 1 barely able to walk. Outside the fort walls, somewhere in the desert, Sarah and Mary and Catherine waited, unaware their rescue mission had become a massacre. Jace looked at Rebecca, at Maggie leaning against the wall, at the 7 children behind them. We have 2 choices, he said quietly. We can try to hide, wait for a better moment that may never come. Or we can fight right now, probably die, but maybe take enough of them down that the children can run. Maggie straightened, though it clearly cost her. My son is on that horse. Rebecca gripped the bloody knife tighter. My daughter is behind us. Jace looked at the children, at Thomas, trying to be brave, at little Lucy, thumb in her mouth, at Emma with her artist's hands, at Kaya, who wanted to teach, at Dakota, who'd called him uncle. He'd spent 15 years running from his past, from responsibility, from sacrifice. No more. Jace raised the revolver, aimed at Blackwood across the courtyard. Then we fight. Jace's finger tightened on the trigger. But Rebecca grabbed his wrist. Wait. You shoot from here. You'll hit Dakota. She was right. The boy was directly between Jace's position and Blackwood, bound across the horse's saddle. 1 stray bullet and Sarah's son would be dead by the hand trying to save him. Jace lowered the gun, mind racing. 12 armed men in the courtyard. 1 revolver with 6 bullets. No cover between their position at the dungeon entrance and the wagon. The moment they stepped into the open, they'd be cut down. We need a distraction, Maggie whispered, still leaning against the doorframe. Her color was returning, but slowly. Something big enough to scatter them. Jace remembered the dynamite they'd stolen from the sheriff's arsenal. 2 sticks. But that was outside with the horses, with Sarah and the others, if they were even still alive. For all he knew, Blackwood had sent men to hunt them down while he was trapped in the dungeon. A commotion erupted at the main gate, voices shouting. Then an explosion, not dynamite, something smaller, a gunshot, no, louder. The western wall of the fort suddenly had a gaping hole in it, smoke billowing through. What the hell? One of Blackwood's guards started. Through the breach rode 3 horses at full gallop. Sarah in the lead, her face a mask of fury and determination. Mary beside her, wielding a rifle. Catherine bringing up the rear, reins in her teeth, both hands gripping pistols. They'd used the dynamite on the wall. The courtyard exploded into chaos. Blackwood's men scattered, some diving for cover, others returning fire. The Mexican traders abandoned their wagon, running for their own horses. Sarah's eyes found Dakota on the horse, then found Jace in the dungeon entrance. Their gazes locked across the madness. In that instant, Jace saw Nashoda in her daughter's face, the same fierce protectiveness, the same willingness to die for those she loved. "Get the children out," Jace shouted to Rebecca and Maggie. "Through the breach in the wall now." They didn't argue. Rebecca scooped up Lucy and Emma, herding the other children toward the opening. Maggie followed, still unsteady but moving. Jace sprinted into the courtyard, using the chaos as cover. A guard spotted him, raised his rifle. Mary's shot took the man in the shoulder. He dropped, but the numbers were still wrong. 8 guards, 4 traitors, all armed and recovering from the initial shock. Sarah and Mary were pinned down behind an overturned supply cart. Catherine's horse had been shot out from under her, and she crouched behind a water trough, returning fire with dwindling ammunition. Jace dove behind the wagon where Dakota lay bound. The boy's eyes were wide with terror, tears streaming down his face around the gag. "It's okay," Jace said, sawing at the ropes with the dead guard's knife. "I've got you. Your mother's here." "Touchin'!" Blackwood's voice came from above. Jace looked up. Blackwood stood on the second-floor balcony, rifle aimed down at him. At this range, he couldn't miss. "You should have stayed in your forest. Morgan, playing hermit suited you better than playing hero." The rifle cracked. Jace threw himself over Dakota's body, felt the bullet tear through his shoulder. White-hot pain, blood soaking his shirt. But he'd freed Dakota's hands. "Run!" Jace gasped to the boy. "Run to your mother. Don't look back." Dakota hesitated only a second, then bolted toward Sarah's position. 2 guards tried to intercept him. Catherine dropped one, Mary the other. Jace clutched his bleeding shoulder, looked up at Blackwood. The man was reloading, taking his time, savoring the moment. Then Jace saw it. Carved into the wagon wheel beside him, crude, childlike, was a drawing, a flower, no, several flowers, daisies, rendered in careful detail despite being scratched into wood with what must have been a nail or sharp rock. Emma's drawings. The little girl who drew her mother a picture every morning. She'd been here, in this wagon, and even in her fear, she'd made something beautiful, something to hold on to hope. Jace thought of all of them. Thomas, trying to be brave. Lucy with her thumb. Kaya, who wanted to teach. Dakota, who befriended everyone. Emma and her flowers. He thought of their mothers. Sarah, who'd carried Nashoda's legacy. Mary, the teacher who'd never stopped believing in education as salvation. Rebecca, who'd survived 5 years with a monster and still found the courage to love. Catherine, the healer who'd risked everything for people who weren't even blood. Maggie, who'd endured torture and still chose to fight. And Nashoda, the woman who'd saved a broken stranger 15 years ago, asking nothing in return. Who'd raised a daughter to do the same. Jace had spent 15 years believing he didn't deserve redemption. That one moment of cowardice, joining those bank robbers to save his own skin, had defined him forever. But these women, these children, they'd shown him something different. That family wasn't blood. That courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. That redemption wasn't something you earned through suffering and isolation, but something you built through sacrifice for others. He'd come here to repay a debt to a dead woman. But somewhere along the way, it had become more than that. These were his people now, his family, and he would die before he let Blackwood take them. Jace's hand closed around something under the wagon. A canteen. No heavier. He pulled it out. The second stick of dynamite. It must have fallen from Sarah's saddlebag when she rode through. Blackwood finished reloading, aimed his rifle down at Jace again. Any last words, hero? Jace struck a match against the wagon wheel, touched it to the dynamite's fuse. It sputtered to life. Yeah. He stood, shoulders screaming, blood running down his arm. Tell the devil Sarah sends her regards. He threw the dynamite straight up at Blackwood's balcony. The world turned white. The explosion tore through the second-floor balcony. Wood splintered into shrapnel. Stone cracked. The shockwave knocked Jace flat on his back, ears ringing, vision blurred. Through the smoke, he saw Blackwood's body tumbling from the destroyed balcony, slamming into the courtyard dirt. The man didn't move. But 8 guards and 4 Mexican traders were still very much alive, and very much shooting. Jace scrambled behind the wagon as bullets chewed into the wood. His shoulder was on fire, blood soaking through his shirt, but he still had the revolver. 6 shots. He had to make them count. Rebecca! He shouted toward the breached wall. Are the children clear? Her voice came back, faint over the gunfire. All but one. Thomas ran back inside. He said he heard his mother, Maggie. Thomas had heard Maggie and thought she was in danger. Of course the boy had run back. He was his mother's son. Jace broke from cover, firing twice at guards advancing on Sarah's position. One went down clutching his leg, the other dove behind a supply crate. 4 bullets left. He reached Sarah and Dakota behind the overturned cart. The boy clung to his mother, who was bleeding from a grazed temple. Mary crouched beside them, frantically reloading her rifle with shaking hands. We can't hold this position, Mary said. We're surrounded, and we're almost out of ammunition. Sarah wiped blood from her eyes. Then we go down fighting. No. Jace's mind raced. The fort's layout, Kayleigh's map, Maggie's descriptions, it all clicked together. There's a powder magazine, northeast corner, underground. If we can reach it, set it off. The whole fort comes down. Mary finished, along with everyone in it. The children are outside. Rebecca and Catherine can get them to safety while we... A scream cut him off. Not a child's scream, a woman's. Through the smoke, Jace saw movement near the destroyed balcony. Blackwood was on his feet, bloodied, burned, but alive. And he had Maggie. She must have gone searching for Thomas when the boy ran back inside. Now Blackwood's arm was locked around her throat, a knife pressed to her scarred back. Thomas stood frozen 10 feet away, tears streaming down his face. Everybody stopped shooting. Blackwood's voice was raw, damaged from the blast, but still commanding. Or I carve this Irish whore into pieces. The gunfire stuttered to a halt. An eerie quiet settled over the courtyard, broken only by crackling flames from the destroyed balcony. Blackwood's face was a ruin burned on one side, bleeding from a dozen cuts, but his eyes were clear and full of hate. Morgan, show yourself. Jace stepped into the open, revolver hanging at his side. There he is, the brave hero. Blackwood's knife traced a line down Maggie's spine, following old scars. You've cost me everything. My operation, my reputation, my fort. So before I die, I'm taking something from you. He pressed the knife deeper. Maggie gasped in pain. No. Thomas lurched forward. Blackwood's free hand whipped out, grabbed the boy by his collar, yanked him close. Now he had both mother and son. Perfect, 2 for 1. Jace raised the revolver, but Blackwood was using them as shields. Any shot risked hitting Maggie or Thomas. "Put it down," Blackwood ordered, "or I start with the boy." Jace's hand trembled. 4 bullets left. Impossible angle. Too much risk. He lowered the gun. "Kick it away." The revolver skidded across the dirt, out of reach, behind him. Jace heard Sarah's sharp intake of breath. She was going to do something stupid. He knew it. The same reckless courage that had made Nashota a legend. "Sarah, don't," he started. She was already moving. Broke from cover, running straight at Blackwood. Not to attack, to trade, to offer herself for Maggie and Thomas. "Take me instead," Sarah shouted. "I'm Nashota's daughter. I'm worth more to you than—" 3 gunshots rang out simultaneously. Not from Blackwood, from his guards. Still alive, still loyal, still shooting at targets. Sarah stumbled mid-stride. Red bloomed across her side. She fell. "Mom." Dakota's scream tore through the air. The 8-year-old broke from Mary's grasp, running to his mother. Time seemed to slow. Jace saw it all unfold like a nightmare. Sarah on the ground, bleeding badly, trying to wave Dakota back. Dakota reaching her, trying to lift her, his small hands already slick with her blood. Blackwood watching with satisfaction. Knife still at Maggie's throat. The Mexican traders using the chaos to mount their horses, abandoning the deal, fleeing through the main gate. Mary and Catherine pinned down by covering fire from the remaining guards. Rebecca outside the walls with 7 children, unable to help without leaving them unprotected. And Jace, unarmed, wounded, watching the woman who'd given him purpose bleed out in the dirt while her son begged her to stay awake. Catherine broke from her position, running low across the courtyard toward Sarah. Bullets kicked up dirt around her feet, but somehow she made it. She dropped to her knees beside Sarah, hands already pressing against the wound. "It's bad," Catherine's voice carried to Jace. "Entry wound in the side, exit through the back. She's bleeding internally. I need supplies. I need time. We don't have any of those things," Mary said grimly, providing cover fire with her last bullets. Catherine looked up at Jace, and in her eyes, he saw the truth. Sarah was dying. Dakota cradled his mother's head, crying, "Please don't leave me. Please, Mama, please." Sarah's hand found his face, trembling. "Be strong, little one. Like grandmother taught me." Blackwood laughed, the sound raw and broken. "Beautiful. This is just beautiful. You want to save her. Morgan, want to save any of them." He pressed the knife harder against Maggie's back. "Then here's the deal. You have 10 seconds to bring me that necklace, Nashota's necklace, and I let the Irish bitch and her brat go. Maybe even let Catherine work on Sarah before she bleeds out." Jace's hand went to his pocket. The silver sun necklace, pressed there by Sarah hours ago. The last piece of Nashota, the symbol of everything he'd been fighting for. 10, 9, 8. Sarah's breathing was becoming shallow. Dakota sobbed over her. 7, 6, 5. Maggie's eyes met Jace's across the courtyard. She mouthed 2 words. "Don't do it." 4, 3. Jace's fingers closed around the necklace. 2. He took a step forward. 1. The fort's main gate exploded inward in a shower of splintered wood. Kayleigh rode through on a painted war horse, followed by 20 Apache warriors, all armed, all painted for battle. "The debt of Nashota," the old man declared, "is paid today. The Apache warriors spread across the courtyard like a storm, their war cries splitting the air. Blackwood's remaining guards, already exhausted, already outgunned, broke instantly. Some tried to fight. Most ran. The Apache showed no mercy to those who stood their ground. Blackwood's knife wavered at Maggie's throat as he watched his empire crumble in seconds. You brought savages into this. I brought family, Jace said. Kayla dismounted with the grace of a man half his age. 2 warriors flanked him, rifles trained on Blackwood. Release the woman and child, now. Blackwood's eyes darted between exits, calculating odds that didn't exist. His men were dead or fleeing. The Mexicans were long gone. He was alone. If I'm dying today, he snarled, I'm taking. Maggie drove her elbow into his ribs with everything she had. The knife slipped. She grabbed Thomas and threw herself sideways, covering her son with her body. Blackwood raised the blade to stab them both. Rebecca's knife buried itself in his back. She'd crossed the courtyard in silence, moving through smoke and chaos like a ghost. Now she stood behind her ex-husband, hands still gripping the knife handle, driving it deeper. This is for every woman you hurt, she whispered, every child you stole, every life you destroyed. Blackwood turned, mouth opening to curse her. But Rebecca twisted the blade. His eyes widened. He stumbled backward, hand reaching for the knife he couldn't grasp. And this, Rebecca said, voice breaking, is for making me believe I was worthless. She pulled the knife free and stepped back as Blackwood collapsed to his knees. Blood pooled beneath him. His mouth worked soundlessly, that shark-eyed stare finally dimming. He fell forward into the dirt and didn't move again. Rebecca stood over him, knife trembling in her hands, her whole body shaking. I killed him. I actually killed him. Maggie, still covering Thomas, looked up. You freed us. The remaining guards had either fled or surrendered. The courtyard fell quiet except for crackling flames and labored breathing. Then Dakota's voice. Please, somebody help my mom. Jace ran to where Catherine knelt over Sarah. The wound was catastrophic: entry through the side, exit through the back. Catherine's hands were crimson, pressing gauze that was already soaked through. I can't stop the bleeding, Catherine said, voice tight with controlled panic. The bullet tore through too much, even if we got her to a doctor right now. Let me see. Cale appeared beside them, moving with quiet authority. He examined the wound with experienced eyes, then called out in Apache. An older woman emerged from the group of warriors Neol, the same medicine woman who'd saved Sarah before. She carried a leather bag of supplies, working quickly. She packed the wound with herbs Jace didn't recognize, muttering words in Apache. Then she looked at Keeley and spoke rapidly. Keeley's expression darkened. He turned to Jace. She can slow the bleeding, but Sarah needs surgery. Real surgery, with real tools. The nearest doctor is in Tucson, 40 miles. She'll never make it, Catherine said quietly. Sarah's eyes fluttered open. She found Dakota's face above hers. My brave boy. Mama, don't talk. Save your strength. Listen to me. Sarah's voice was fading. You are named Dakota friend to everyone because that's who you are. Never lose that. Never become hard like this world wants you to be. I won't, I promise. Just please. And Jace. Sarah's eyes found him. Thank you. For honoring my mother. For trying. I'm not done trying, Jace said fiercely. "We're getting you to Tucson. Right now." He lifted her despite Catherine's protests, despite Neol shaking her head. Kayleigh helped him onto the fastest horse. Sarah cradled in Jace's arms. Dakota scrambled up behind them. "Ride," Kayleigh said simply. "We'll bring the others." Jace rode harder than he'd ever ridden in his life, through desert and scrub, following the sun's position west toward Tucson. Sarah drifted in and out of consciousness, her breathing growing shallower with each mile. Dakota held his mother's hand, talking to her constantly, telling her about the house they'd build, the garden she'd plant, the stories she'd tell. Anything to keep her present, keep her fighting. They made it to Tucson in 4 hours, a ride that should have taken 6. Jace thundered down Main Street screaming for a doctor, scattering pedestrians. Dr. Augustus Chen, a middle-aged Chinese physician with a reputation for battlefield medicine, met them at his clinic door. One look at Sarah, and he was barking orders to his assistant. "You'll have to wait outside," Chen said, already cutting away Sarah's blood-soaked clothing. "No." Dakota's voice was small but firm. "I'm staying." Chen looked at the 8-year-old, saw something in his eyes, and nodded. "Then stay quiet and stay back." The surgery took 3 hours. Jace paced the waiting room, still covered in Sarah's blood, while Dakota sat motionless in a chair, staring at the operating room door. When Chen finally emerged, his apron was crimson, but his expression was cautiously optimistic. "She's alive. The bullet missed her kidney by an inch, pure luck. I've removed the fragments, repaired what I could. She's lost a lot of blood, but..." He looked at Dakota. "Your mother is strong. If infection doesn't set in, she should recover." Dakota's face crumpled. He buried his head in Jace's chest and sobbed, not from grief this time, but relief. 2 days later, the others arrived. Kayleigh had brought all 7 children, plus Maggie, Rebecca, Catherine, and Mary in a wagon. They'd stopped to bury Mary's daughter, Kaya. The little girl who'd wanted to be a teacher had died from an infection before Neil could save her. Mary's grief was a quiet, terrible thing. But when she saw Sarah awake in the clinic bed, some light returned to her eyes. "You lived," Mary whispered. "Barely." Sarah's voice was weak but steady. "I heard about Kaya. Mary, don't." Mary took her hand. "Kaya's last words were about you. She said, 'Tell Aunt Sarah to wake up. We still need her. So wake up, because we do.'" The 7 surviving children crowded around the bed. Thomas, Lucy, Emma, Dakota, and 3 others. Sarah touched each face, memorizing them. "Where's Jace?" she asked. "Sheriff's office," Rebecca said quietly. "Turning himself in for the bank robbery." The trial lasted 1 day. Deputy Billy Morrison, the young man who'd arrested Sheriff Dalton at Fort Defiance, testified about the conspiracy. The 8 children testified about their rescue. 5 women testified about Jace's courage. The jury deliberated 20 minutes. Not guilty by reason of duress and subsequent redemption. The judge declared, "Mr. Morgan, you are free to go. However, you will serve 200 hours of community service, helping to establish a school for orphaned children." Outside the courthouse, Jace found all of them waiting. Sarah in a wheelchair, still healing. The children clustered around her, the women standing together, a united front. Dakota broke free and ran to Jace. Can I call you Dad now, for real? Jace knelt, ignoring his still healing shoulder. I'd be honored. Us too, Thomas asked shyly. Lucy nodded, thumb in her mouth. Emma held up a drawing she'd made a picture of all of them together. Jace looked at the 5 women. I'm just a lumberjack who got lucky. I'm not your family. Maggie interrupted. That's what you are. Catherine smiled. Family doesn't require perfection, just presence, Mary added. And you've been present when it mattered most. Rebecca stepped forward, holding something wrapped in cloth. We found this in Blackwood's office. It belongs to you now. She unwrapped it, Nashoda's silver sun necklace. Sarah wanted you to have it, Rebecca said, to remember that some debts aren't paid with money. They're paid with love. Jace took the necklace, felt its familiar weight. For 15 years, he'd run from his past. For 3 days, he'd fought for a future. Now, surrounded by 7 children and 5 women who'd become his reason for living, he finally understood what Nashoda had tried to teach him all those years ago. Redemption isn't something you earn alone in the wilderness. It's something you build, together, with the people brave enough to call you family. 3 months later, a ranch stood where empty desert had been, 40 acres outside Tucson, with a main house large enough for 14 people who'd chosen to become family. Jace taught Dakota and Thomas how to work with wood. Sarah, fully recovered, taught Emma and Lucy their letters. Maggie tended gardens. Rebecca, now visibly pregnant with new life, helped Catherine establish a small clinic for travelers. Mary planted a tree for Kaya, the daughter she'd lost. Beneath it, she taught the other children about courage, sacrifice, and why some things are worth dying for. On their first family dinner, they gathered around a table Jace had built with Dakota's help. 14 chairs, 14 plates. Not a single person related by blood, but bound by something stronger. Nashoda used to say, Sarah told them, holding up the silver sun necklace, that gratitude isn't a debt to repay, it's a gift to pay forward. Jace looked at each face around the table. I was saved by a stranger who asked nothing in return. You all saved me by letting me save you. That's what family does. Rebecca raised her glass. To chosen family, the ones we bleed for, the ones we live for. Maggie added, have you ever witnessed injustice, people being treated as less than human, and wished you had the courage to intervene? What stopped you? Or what made you act?